Chapter 10. Thursday, 2 days before the wedding. 2 days later, and Gabe was desperate. There was progress on the house. A couple of walls had been moved. The new ensuite bath was perfect by Britney standards, keeping in the traditional feel of the house. Paint was drying. Wallpaper had been hung. Furniture was moved in and covered with dust cloths to keep it clean. A cleaning crew was wiping down everything so the final touches could happen. Gabe was waiting on an entire order of deluxe kitchen countertop appliances in matching red because it would fit with Britney's stand mixer. However, nothing had happened in the backyard. Flowers, small trees, sod, and a jumbo of wood for the new playset had been delivered and sat abandoned beside a stack of paving stones. A sprinkler system and lighting system waited in boxes. The wedding was coming ever closer, and this might be his last chance to convince her to marry him. The house had to be done and perfect for when she finally had a look at it. So today was the day Gabe showed up in his gym clothes. He had no idea what he was doing, but apparently all the landscaping companies were too busy to take his money, no matter how high he bid the job. The joke was on him. He couldn't buy his way out of this situation. The local hardware store had helpfully delivered a bunch of tools he might need. Gabe was now the proud owner of a bunch of Guy's items he never even remotely handled before. Some of the tools, he didn't even know what they were for. Too bad he had never elected to take shop. Grabbing a shovel, Gabe reasoned he could take the old patchy grass off the yard first and throw it in the dumpster. It was as good of a place to start as any. Then he could set to pulling out any plants in the way of his new flower bed scheme. After that, he would put out all those bags of potting mix he'd bought. Then plant the sod, the plants, read the directions on the lighting, sprinklers, and playset. Somehow, he would get it done. With a plan in mind, Gabe set to working up a sweat. Hours later in the hot sun, Gabe looked at his empty water bottle with regret. The cleaners had been through the house, and there was no way he could go inside to refill the container being covered in dirt from head to toe like he was. Taking the lid off his water bottle, Gabe opened the tap, listening to the water course through the hose. Using the nozzle on the end, he sprayed a generous amount into the container before taking a big, thirsty gulp and spitting it back out. "Hot!" he choked in shock, touching his aching lips with dirty fingers. "You have to run it a little while for it to cool down," a man advised. "The hose heats up in the sun." "Thanks." Gabe looked around to see a blond man peering over the fence. "I'm Tom," the man cheerfully supplied. "I guess we're neighbors." "Nice to meet you, Tom," replied Gabe as he ran the hose, testing it with his finger before refilling the water container. "I'm Gabe." "Looks like you're doing a little yard work," Tom observed the obvious. "I noticed there's been a lot of activity around the house for the past couple days." "I'm trying to get it ready by the weekend," replied Gabe, taking a swig from his water bottle. He wondered if all his new neighbors were going to be as nosy as this one. "I want it to be perfect for Britney." "Don't you have any help?" wondered Tom. "Looks like a big job." "It is," admitted Gabe. He looked at the lumps of dirt of uneven soil where he had dug out the grass. He would have to fix it before laying down the sod. Otherwise, the entire yard would be lumpy. Gabe frowned at the amount of work before him. "I don't really have a choice. The first landscaper bailed because he was double booked. I can't find another one to take over in time to get the job done, so I have to do it myself." Gabe looked around, but it appeared Tom had left. Or at least the tuft of blonde hair, pink forehead, and eyeballs that had been looking over the fence had left. Gabe shook his head. He had another good drink of water and started digging again, tossing clumps of grass and dirt into the wheelbarrow. He was going to get this done today, even if it killed him. "I thought you could use a hand," said Tom from behind him, causing Gabe to jump in surprise. "I'll need you to tell me what to do since I have no experience at this. I'm an accountant during the day. I mostly work from home, and it's a little slow right now, so I can help you out for a few hours if you'd like." "Thanks. I would appreciate it." I run a chain of hospitals. Gabe grimaced at his mistake. Actually, I just resigned from running a chain of hospitals. It's recent. I guess the real question is, do you golf? Asked Tom in mock seriousness. A lot of guys on the block golf. You should join us sometime. I would like that. Gabe set the shovel to the ground and held out a hand in greeting. He winced as Tom gave his blistered hand a hearty shake. Boy, those are big blisters, commented Tom. You should wear some work gloves. Hey, I've got an extra pair. Gabe gratefully took the extended pair. Truth is, I have no idea what I'm doing trying to landscape this. I just know I have to get it done. Well then, put me to work, Tom volunteered. Hours later, and some handy advice from the contractor, Gabe and Tom had made significant headway. Taking a break, the pair sat in a set of folding lawn chairs Tom had dug out of his garage, since they didn't want to get the new patio set dirty. Eating Chinese food from a local restaurant out of containers with a couple of beers, the men contemplated their work. I'll call someone to repair the sprinkler system on Monday, mentioned Gabe. I'm sorry about that, apologized Tom. I really didn't see the line when I dug the hole. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Gabe waved the apology away. The plants are going to need to be watered, advised Tom as he speared another spring roll with his plastic fork, putting it on his paper plate. Every evening they should be watered until they're established. Gabe frowned. I suppose I can. Who else is going to do it? Tom asked rhetorically. It's not like you can afford a gardener. Gabe reflected Tom was right. He couldn't afford a gardener. Gabe was distinctly middle class now, only because he had a great investment portfolio. His liquidity position was horrible. Right now he was reduced to sleeping at Marshall's place, but Gabe didn't know how long he would be welcome there, since Marshall was getting married this weekend. He supposed he would have to find an affordable apartment and get a new job. Dragging his thoughts out of his personal worries, Gabe regarded the ornamental tree they had planted in the flower bed. The tree still looks crooked. We've planted it over a dozen times, replied Tom dryly. No matter which way we plant it, the tree is still crooked. Nothing's going to change it. Do you think it's defective? Wondered Gabe as he frowned while contemplating the flowering tree. Maybe those plants are supposed to be that way, shrugged Tom. How would we know? We're not gardeners. Although, after today, I think we've earned some of our green thumb. Look at the treehouse. It's a thing of beauty. That's true, Gabe noted with pride. He was sore, sunburnt, and had blisters. There was dirt right through his sneakers and socks. However, he was proud of all the work they had done. Never would he or any of his acquaintances have thought Gabriel Ramsley would do manual labor. However, we couldn't have done it without help from the contractor and his assistant. We did learn how to use a skill saw, beamed Tom as he held up his bandaged hand. Gabe winced. I would still like you to get the wound looked at. It probably could use a couple of stitches and a tetanus shot. I promise I will cover the bill. It's just a scratch. Tom waved away his concern. It was worth it. It's our blood and sweat in this yard. Thank you. Gabe truly was thankful. He gave Tom a nod of appreciation. I couldn't have done any of this without you. You would have found a way. Always important not to disappoint the missus, Tom said jovially. He looked around the yard, missing Gabe's pensive look. So we've done everything except the playset. Yep, nodded Gabe. He didn't know why he hadn't told Tom Britney wasn't marrying him. He supposed he was still hopeful. Gabe gazed at the pile of wood, plastic, and bolts. The rest of the yard looked good. Not great, and certainly not perfect by any means, but even the contractor had been impressed with their work before he had left. The house was finished to perfection. Now all that was left to do was tackle the playset. I'll grab the instructions. Hopefully we can figure them out. I've built the IKEA furniture, Tom mentioned hopefully. Maybe it'll be similar. Then you are the expert and can take the lead on this part of the project, Gabe offered as he grabbed a booklet from the pile. Returning to his chair, he and Tom pored over the paperwork. Looks like hieroglyphics, muttered Tom.
It only has diagrams.
Gabe was aghast.
How is anyone supposed to put together a large, safe playset for a child with only pictures to follow? Where are the instructions? I think this is Spanish?
Tom squinted over a sheet.
These symbols might be Chinese. I have no idea where the English is.
Gabe leaned over to read.
It says to put the playset together and use at your own risk. Not liable for any injuries. That's encouraging, snorted Tom. Well, looks like sturdy material. All we need to do is figure out how to read the pictures.
15 minutes later, the two men had a plan of attack and began. Saturday, the day of the wedding. Are you sure you want to do this? Questioned Tara in a gentle voice. I need to say goodbye to it. Britney took a deep breath as she inserted the key into the lock. It's part of the grieving process. Then I can hand the keys over to the realtor and we'll never have to worry about it again. Okay, Tara said doubtfully as she followed her friend into the foyer. She looked around the space. It is nice. The house is walking distance from the park and a 10-minute drive to the school. Britney wandered into the furnished living room, running a hand over the plush couch. Tara went to the kitchen, frowning as she caught sight of a couple of sticky notes on the counter. She lifted one off, reading the scrawl on the slip of yellow paper. Space for Brit's mixer. Replacing it, Tara read the other one, which was taped to an empty wooden crate which was sitting on the end of the counter. Spot for Brick's cookbooks. Frowning, Tara caught a glimpse of an open doorway where there were a ton of sticky notes and other papers on a wall. Investigating, she found the office. Papers, magazines with sticky notes, diagrams of the house were pinned on the wall. A list on the desk caught her eye. In Gabe's masculine scrawl, there were notes on what Britney had shown preferences for in furniture, paint, decorations, fabrics. A pile of magazines with sticky notes sat beside the list. Tara flipped through the papers on his desk when another note caught her eye. Make Brit happy. On it was a list of things to do for the house, the honeymoon, to discuss whether or not to put a treehouse in the backyard, etc. Tara rolled her eyes as she set it down. It was such a man list. Women would try to find ways to say they loved a man, to show affection and care. Men just wanted to see if they could provide things, as if that was the answer. She tossed the list back on the desk and went to find Britney in the nursery. Tara hesitated in the doorway. Oh, Brit, I knew this was a bad idea. Britney shook her head as she flipped pages in a book. He highlighted names. Excuse me? Tara came over to her friend's side and looked at the book. Baby names. Brit had a watery sigh. He highlighted some. He's just trying to get into your head. Tara pulled the book out of Britney's grasp, setting it down on a dresser. He did up this whole house to get into your head. It's everything I would have chosen. Britney stroked the wooden crib rail. She loved the blue and plaid accents. Exactly. Tara tried to talk sense into her. He had your magazines and got a decorator to do up the house exactly as you wanted. He's trying to get you back, just like he always does. However, once he has you, Gabe doesn't know what to do and just leaves you. He does it all the time. He's never had me before, Britney pointed out wryly as she picked up a stuffed bear. He always had you, Tara sighed. Remember when you were going out with Brandon? Brandon was ready to propose, and Gabe inserted himself just enough so that you would break it off and be available, which you did. Then he pulls a disappearing act and wants nothing to do with you. He is incapable of loving you, but he doesn't want you to be happy with anyone. I'm telling you, the guy is poison. He has never done this before. Britney touched the tiny sheet in the crib with the giraffe pattern. He never told me he wanted to love me, that he wanted to try, that he would be there for me. He will say anything, sighed Tara. He does it every time he gets close to losing you. Gabe dangles a carrot of mediocre affection and you come running. Then he turns it around, so you are alone and embarrassed while he's off living his life without a thought of you." Britney digested the words quietly. It was true before. This time he seems to mean it. Tara wrapped an arm around Britney, sighing. "Trust me, this is no different than all the other times, even if he did buy the house. He can afford to." "He gave me back my shares." Britney gently put down the stuffed bear. A smooth tactic on his part. "I have been watching him break your heart year after year. You're better off without him," said Tara in a firm voice. "You're probably right," repeated Britney woodenly. "Come on, let's go." Tara led Britney out of the room. After they had descended the staircase, Britney stopped. "I want to see the backyard," she mentioned as she caught sight of a children's swing set outside. Tara nodded, and the pair exited through the living room French doors onto the back patio. A newly landscaped yard greeted them. Not only was there a swing set, but a sandbox and a treehouse had been added. "There's something a little off." Tara frowned as she looked around. "Is the ornamental tree crooked?" "Good morning," called out a cheery male voice. Britney and Tara turned to see a man walking across the yard. Blond and a little heavy set, he had a round, happy face. Hello?" Tara shot Britney a look. Britney shrugged. "One of you must be Britney." The man held out his hand in greeting. "I'm Tom. I live next door. Gabe texted me this morning asking me to water the sod and plants. I guess he thought you weren't going to be here yet." "Isn't there a sprinkler system?" Tara asked a little suspiciously. "There's a break in the line somewhere, so it's not working," smiled Tom. "It'll be replaced next weekend." Britney quickly took his hand in hers. "I'm Britney, and this is my friend Tara." "Nice to meet you," nodded Tom. He looked over the yard in satisfaction. "You know, this is the first yard I have ever landscaped. I kind of enjoyed it. Might have to change my profession from accounting to gardener." "Pardon me?" questioned Britney. "I thought a landscaping company was hired." "Oh, they were, but they bailed," Tom informed her. "Everyone else was booked up, so your fiancé started to do it himself. I came over to introduce myself and decided to volunteer to help. 2 days later, and a little advice from the contractor, who was overseeing the inside work, we managed to finish the yard. Gabe was determined to get it done for you on time." "Gabe did manual labor?" Disbelief tinged Tara's voice. "Sure did. Good thing he can figure out instructions," laughed Tom. "I would have put the playset together all backward. As it was, we both have a few blisters for our efforts." "He really helped to create all this?" Britney looked over the yard with fresh eyes. Tara was right. The color scheme was wrong, with plants planted in groups which didn't match. There was a crooked dwarf ornamental tree. "Helped? He made it happen. I was the helper." Tom gestured to the treehouse. "The only thing Gabe couldn't do was the treehouse. We hired a construction guy to help us figure that one out. Didn't want the thing to come crashing down once your kid starts using it." Britney's lower lip trembled as tears came to her eyes. She sniffed. Tara sighed over the inevitable. "You are going back to him." "Would you think less of me if I did?" Britney gave Tara a pleading look, wanting her to understand. "No." Tara gave a small smile before giving her friend a hug. "I know you have a big heart. I just hope this time Gabe means it." "He does." Britney smiled and wiped away a tear. "He did all of this for me. Gabe may not be able to say the words, but this time he used actions to prove he's capable of putting me first. We could have an equal relationship if he keeps trying, and I want to give him the chance." "Okay." Tara nodded and looked concerned as she checked her watch. "The wedding is this afternoon. We'll never make it on time." "Who cares if you're on time?" Tom asked rhetorically. "I waited 3 hours for my Nancy to make it down the aisle, and it was worth it. Just get there." "I'll need my dress." Britney grabbed Tara's arm as they hustled through the gate towards the driveway. "You need your dress. What about the flowers for our bouquets? You need to call Rex. He has to be there. And my mother, what am I supposed to do about her?" "Don't invite her," advised Tara. "She would never make it on time." "Good point," conceded Britney. Tom opened the door of the car for her. "Drive carefully. You don't need to be in an accident on your wedding day." Wait! Britney pulled out her phone. What is your phone number? I'm inviting you and Nancy to the wedding.
You don't have to do that, a humble Tom told her.
Yes, I do. I think you're the first friend Gabe has made outside of family since college, so you're invited. Britney got his phone number. I'll text you the location.
Go get married.
Tom carefully shut her door, and Tara backed out of the driveway as he waved to them. Who were they? A woman called from the neighboring porch.
Britney and her friend, Tanya or something, Tom shouted back. Could you get out my suit and a dress for yourself? Call the sitter. We're going to need one after I'm done watering the yard here.
What for? Nancy questioned.
We're going to a wedding, grinned Tom.
If you enjoyed this chapter of Convincing Him, look for the next one. Please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the little bell. This is a notification for when each chapter drops so that you won't miss any. Happy listening.